All right, all right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Carole. We're very happy to have you with us tonight for our Agile meetup. I've checked your LinkedIn background. I saw you actually started your career at Proximus way back in the days.
Way before, but yes,
Way
in
before?
Belgium,
Okay.
yes, in Proximus, in Belgium.
Okay. In a non-agile environment at the time.
Indeed.
Is that correct? Yeah. And then I saw you actually switched to you went to other places, and then you came back in an agile environment, and then quite an interesting agile background. You worked for JSK as a Scrum Master or Agile coach, for AW Europe, for It's Me as well. So quite some experiences we're eager to hear about. So I'd like to welcome with us tonight, and well, Carole, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Louis. So thank you for being here with me. And what I'd like to share with you today about Agile is something people tend to forget. People tend to forget that Agile has been created within a Meetup environment, meaning people were they were going to a ski weekend. They were also associating themselves to organizational anarchists. So to give you a bit of context, this is nothing about wearing suits, following the rules, nothing for conformists. Agile is for rebels. Yeah. And being Agile is being a selfless leader living the Agile ways. That is to say, having a way of living and a way of working, but also doing it with other people. It means that Agile is nothing you can live with without other people. It means that it's about co-creation, cooperative learning, and it's about how creating a safe environment where people can feel welcome to give the best of themselves. And how to get better at it, how to feel ready to cooperate with other people. It's about being curious, because when you are curious, curiosity, like agility, necessitates a perpetual willingness to learn. And do you remember the last time you were more open to learn? The time you were prompt to feel questions, prompt to also ask questions? What I've noticed during all these years is people get easily trapped. Trapped in their area of expertise, trapped in their way they think things should be done, trapped in their routine. So think about it for a minute. How many of us have already said, I don't need to know that, or this is not my expertise, or I don't have the time, I'm too busy to do X or Y. This happens quite often, and it's far away to feel curious and be agile. So today's issue is Agile transformation is about dealing with our legacy. And I'm going to come back on misconception, overall culture, and also fundamentals that, again, people tend to forget and could really make you a way more agile compared to anything you can keep on observing in companies. So let's come back on the basic definition. So Agile comes from the word in Latin. Yes, in Latin it was agilitas, moving with lightness, like a pianist will do on his instrument. And if agility is the ability to win from the continuous change, and Agile an approach to deliver things with highest agility, My definition of Agile is the following one. It is looking at the thing for the first time with the eyes of the child, to be able to look at things, to be amazed by those ones, and to act on them with the responsibility of an adult. Again, we have the responsibility to renew our legacy. That's what all Agile is about. And another thing people tend to forget is the very first sentence of the manifesto. We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it or helping others doing it. That's why cooperative learning and cooperation is a way very important compared to anything else we hear about Agile. And let's start with what people keep on seeing. First misconception, you see that Agile is a mindset, 4 values declined in 12 principles with a myriad of practices and terms, and roles sometimes too. And the heart of Agile is just delivering, inspecting, adapting, making people awesome. And within the definition I gave you earlier, you see that it's nothing about speed at all. It's about the way you deliver something. Speed here is a potential gain, maybe a consequence, but it's not the promise of Agile. And here also what you see, it's a philosophy. There's nothing about a methodology, because there is no method or recipe you could apply in a changing context. Things keep on changing, so why talking about methodology? Other misconception is people tend to feel victim of the organizations they belong to. They forget that they have a role to play, that if they don't like something, they can change it. And that sentence, that quote from Maya Angelou is a very good way to think and act with agility, because there is always something we can do about. Of course, it's not as easy as it is being said, but there are things. So, but why we need it too? That's something I forgot to say. There is a perception of time acceleration. There is also a perception of resource rarefication, or that we need to do more with less, that we need to collaborate rather than competing. At the end, what we see with the new generation, that we need also to bring more sense to what we do, else people leave. And here with Agile, with the responsibility we have to rebuild our legacy, that's also enormous, a huge opportunity to bring back the sense, to bring that kind of harmony that we lose when we are tense, or there are frictions that we can't control. So here is about, we are the sum of our decision. And there is even more than this, because if you think about that 95% of the decisions we take are subconscious, look at the work we do have, the kind of rebellion we should have toward ourselves first, before we can naturally say that we choose the thing that we want for us. And as we are responsible to rebuild our legacy, being aware about what we choose, why we choose it, question whatever we are doing, like, okay, shall I send an email to protect myself, or just really because I need to wrap up something to make sense of what we have done? Or shall I prepare that workshop? With who should I do it? You see all the politics there is around within the company, the things we need to take into consideration or not, need to be questioned. Whatever practice you do have, I invite you to rethink again, because it's also what Agile is about. Next to that, yes, how attracted are you by the unknown? That's a very good way to assess your level of agility. And there is, of course, that woman that seems very excited or exalted by something that she probably like, and the guy on the other side rather feeling fear. But what's the main difference between these two? That's a projection. The anticipation that something could go wrong or good. I cannot say that that guy or that woman is more agile than the other. All I can say that these are metrics to tell you how ready you are to face a situation. And even fear can be transformed in some kind of excitation by shifting from anticipating the bad to good, but also by new techniques like emotional freedom with palpation. But there are plenty of things you could do now to shift from an environment to another one, I mean, mindset-wise. Another thing, how often do you try new things? When was the last time you did something different? Another metric, we have on one side a girl, which is quite I feel she found something. She don't know yet what, but I feel she found something. And on the other side, that guy thinking or maybe reflecting. So nobody can say who is the most agile here. All we can say is please try things as often as possible, but also take your time to reflect on them. Maybe also to prepare them a little bit. The issue here is as long as your ratio of thinking is less than your ratio of action, it's good. It means keep on experimenting, but also please reflect and improve it. Another way to check how agile you are is when was the last time you have used the Agile Manifesto to make decisions, for instance? So, or just the values. And here, the trick is, yeah, of course, please, if you see someone, if you see people going on one side all together without thinking too much, or just because these have always been the way things have been done, look around. Maybe there are other ways. Of course, that situation is not comfortable. But by accepting your singularity, you will get way more comfortable to do that. And on the other side, that guy looking a bit strict. So of course, if the rules are too strict, it won't be good for the level of agility. But on the other side, if that guy just reminds, hey, this is what we agreed. What about the direction we should take now? Especially if it's about just changing the plan or following it. So we don't know what he's reminding here, but we need those guys too. Another misconception is the time it takes to feel responsible. So we have that guy, okay, I take it, maybe it's on me, but we don't know what he came through. We don't know how long did it take to feel responsible of the situation. And on the other side, we have that girl that apparently feels a bit surprised that people are looking at her because she doesn't see the link between what the situation is and how she could be involved. But that's also a natural step within the responsibility. First, you deny the situation. Next, you can think about, okay, who else? Maybe other could have hacked on them. Next to that, you feel, okay, maybe there is something I could have done. To realize that, indeed, there is some shame you could feel before you feel obliged to do something, leaving the situation, or choosing to do something about it. But my point here is not both are the same. They just have not. They just not have been through the same stage yet. And we can work with both of them in just how to communicate with them. How do you behave with a different kind of people? How do you adapt yourself with people you don't know, or people with highly emotional, or people who don't talk a lot, or people who don't show up? My invitation here is to consider emotional intelligence, but also social condition, the background of the person, the context of the meeting, everything that can help you to have several layers of reading. And on the other side, also to never forget where is your red line, meaning when do you use the line where you feel uncomfortable, the kind of things that when you come back to automatism, the line that is always here, even if you don't feel okay with the situation, to increase your level of adaptation, whatever the situation is, so that you are ready to manage it. And on the other side, when you feel not ready, to know your limits so that you can work on them, to know the gap between what you can manage compared to what you cannot yet, to talk about it and ask for help. And last thing you can do to assess your level of agility is to consider how shaped you are. On one side, we have a T-shaped person, or what we believe is a T-shaped person, that is to say, with several expertise and plenty of generalist knowledge. That guy spends at least an hour a day to read about things he doesn't know. At least it's what I read. And on the other side, we have one math professor, math teacher, and she most probably have only one single expertise. The difference between those two are one can deal with plenty of different kind of profile very easily because he has accumulated different situations, different way of thinking, different reading, different reading metrics. And those profiles, I mean T-shaped profile, are very, people are looking for them, especially in innovation environments. And these are not new profiles, these are the wanted profiles. These are the profiles we shall all become if we want to pretend to have an agile adventure. I'm claiming that expertise, single expertise, is dead now. We need to grow our field of knowledge and to know what we know today compared to what we would like to know later. So there are plenty of other misconceptions, plenty of other questions we could ask, but that one, growing our field of knowledge, is very needed. So, other question you could ask is, did I challenge myself properly today? Or did you put yourself in the shoes of others? What are the things I did today I'd like to continue tomorrow, or I would like to do differently? So all these things can help you to have a pretty good idea about how you can improve. But if you really want to go deeper, I've prepared just 3 ways to think about agile culture. The first one is indeed learning daily, and learning from others like that sounds a bit silly, but really it's challenging, because learning from others requires a lot of observation, meaning observing who are the person around you, how they can help you. Like, how many of you take consciously the time to sit down next to another person? Just because he doesn't know what he does, maybe he can tell me something different I didn't know, or go for lunch with someone that I didn't know. Just changing the network you do have to increase the chance to learn from the others, knowing your mentors, your coach, in which circumstance you do need help. Of course, we are all deeply open when it comes to action. That one is very challenging. Yes, plenty of other things to tell you, with like making every reaction an experience. That's why I ask for feedback at the end. I consider this is an experience. I consider you also do an experience with me, that maybe you take note, maybe you are inspired by something and you could do something with it. So that's also, it helps also to give a bit of lightness to what happened. Creating a collective curricula. It's about how to make sure that what is today on your resume could be on someone else's resume tomorrow. So when you go on training, what do you do next? So, okay, I've been to that training, but how do you make sure that what you learned during that training can be known by others? Because that's also the way you can integrate better what you have learned. And when you do that, the chance for you is double. Not only you integrate better what you have learned, but you also take the chance to unlearn. Because you cannot learn something without giving away something else. These are like two pots of water. You put them together, there is one that's going to let go some water. So we must accept that there are things that are useless to us going away. And also, how many of you contact people that are going to challenge you? Who are your challengers? Who can really put you into a situation that you will not have dared to go alone? Or even the people you consciously decide to meet because they make you feel difficult situation, and you have realized that the problem doesn't come from the person, but just come from something you didn't fix in you yet. Like sometimes situation you can have in a couple. You can consider your couple as a challenger if you train it a little bit. And identifying your habit and obstacle, I guess you all got it, part of it already last time. But it's like cleaning your house. You must be honest with things that help you and things that doesn't help you at all. I hope that when you decide to do something or to redo something, you modify it a little bit so that you improve your experience. And asking powerful questions, that's the minimum we can do to open the field of the possible, like why, what's next, what's now, why not? So all the open questions. Another part of culture is conditioning. So you have met people that will challenge you, but now it's time to put you in challenging situations without waiting. And how do you know that? How do you believe that guy succeeds to do what he does now? He did his work. He did his homework. So I'm talking here about all the investigation you need to lead to understand the field you are going to operate, to increase your level of confidence. So people get confident because they do their research. And they also increase their confidence because they know how to fall, both physically and mentally. Physically, because they understood they could behave like a judoka, meaning when they fall, they are like a marshmallow. So accepting the fact to fall. And believe me, it will really help you to hurt less yourself, or not at all. Or they also understood that when they feel tense, their probability to be sick is way higher. So people learn to relax. And people also start thinking about a company entirely rather than a section, like a team. When you take care of a team, of course you help a part of the company, but you don't always take into consideration other issues that might affect the team and could keep on persisting if you don't tackle them. That's also about thinking that when you receive an information or when you give an information, who else could it impact? We forget too often we forget too often who else could it impact, or who else could it help. Reviewing your goals is about inspection and adaptation, but also about refinement, being clear about what you want, and preparing. You understand it's very important now to increase your level of confidence, and surrounding you with encouraging elements. It means everything that can work for you. Could be a rock, could be a tattoo, it could be a person that is always here to give you last-minute feedback or last-minute help. It could be anything that can increase your level of confidence so that you get ready for uncomfortable situations. And asking for help is also accepting that today, like tomorrow, alone we don't do much. We really need each other. And that's the first step of co-creation. So find your buddies. And the third part of cultivating your agility is developing your leadership. And developing your leadership starts by the communication, knowing how to remain silent, when to talk, how to talk, taking into consideration other people thinking, feeling, but also the way they act about the topic you are going to share with them. And as a leader, you also carry a vision with you, and that vision within an agile environment shall take into consideration the vision of the company, so that you can reconcile the company vision with your own vision. Because also as an agile leader, you become selfless. And being selfless is being more altruistic, but also realizing that we are not separated from each other. It's about interconnection. It's about realizing the size of your ego and what goods it does and what else it does that you should master. And using human sciences will also help you to increase your level of leadership by taking into consideration people psychology. Maybe neuroscience also will help you to understand why people respond or react the way they do. The history behind the company you operate. All these things are simple but very important when it's about increasing the influence, how you guide people towards single or several goals. And relying on organizational networks, it's about identifying the teams within the company you belong to that will help you to create some bridge. Because as a leader, you can sometimes feel responsible to create your own ecosystem, to have the adventure you want to, because sometimes there are indeed big differences in terms of agility from a department to another, or from just people to another. But here, organizational network is a direct contribution that you can bring within companies, because you will just create new opportunities to act according to the rules you agree to create with other teams. That's the way you transfer companies, informally until it becomes formal. Because at the end, everything is allowed until it is forbidden. No? So create your network. And developing your decision-making, it's realizing that if you don't make decisions for yourself or for the people you work with, who else is going to do it? I see so many people waiting for a decision to be made, but the truth was they didn't have the courage to lead that decision, to lead the consequence of this decision. Something also I've seen too many times if decisions were made by fear rather than by love. You know, when your throat gets tense You feel the fear, and when your throat gets suddenly open, that's a nice metric to teach you, am I going into the right direction or not? And now I think about, again, to that Tesla guy who also did his worst decision, according to people, but made with love, meaning building a Tesla engine with the same technology we had hundreds years ago. So that's not only a symbol, but also a concrete example that decision made by love can lead to incredible results, even when people feel that you are a bit crazy. And connecting beyond words, it means developing your spirituality, developing your sense of being present, developing your ability to transfer things beyond the words. And that's pretty it. So I hope it gives you an idea about how you can influence the culture, starting from yourself, but also the culture you operate in. Next to that, the fundamentals. The mental barriers, things you are all confronted with, starting from ourselves. So it can be a denial of ability. You can sometimes believe, I don't know, maybe I don't know how to do that, or I never done that before, why they don't have to someone else. You can also have a feeling of lack of social support. It can be something like, they don't want me to become that, they don't want me to get that position, or they don't want me to operate with these teams. All the things you believe people think about yourself that you just don't allow yourself to get due to social judgment. It could also be perceived of lack of knowledge. I don't know that, why don't they ask to someone else? Or I'm not good enough. And eventually, I believe it can also be something like everything that other people put yourself in your head that you are not aware of. So, could be many, 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 many things. Yes. Or all the things you could suddenly do because you believe that nobody has the time to help you. So each time you are creating or participating to a dysfunction, oh, he has no time to do it, maybe I will do myself, or I figure out it myself. So all these things are toxic for the company, or even for your own life, because it doesn't help you to co-create. And how to move out from this dysfunctional behavior? I'm afraid it's also about analyzing yourself. That is to say, doing your own introspection at the rhythm you want, or when you realize that you are repeating a situation that doesn't give you the results you wanted, despite the fact you put a lot of effort in it. Maybe that's the right moment to tell you, okay, I did that, but what am I afraid of? Or who told me that? Where does it come from? Why I didn't do another way? I mean, why another way would be bad for me or for the others? So by asking yourself systematically, or as often as possible, what are the fears or social pressure you could have around something you did? These are very good ways to understand how you could break this barrier. Remember, legacy is the peer pressure we didn't question yet. And to come back on the essential that you most probably all know, but also sometimes forget because we have so many things to do. I rely on Scrum, mostly because Scrum is 13 pages of open source regularly reviewed by the community. So when I compare 13 pages compared to hundreds of pages that sometimes you need even to pay for, it always gives me an idea about how agile the things will be. And empirical process control rely on transparency within the team, within the organization, also on inspection and adaptation that you will find on any other frameworks, agile or not. But here you have the transparency on top. The self-management part, it means that we trust the team to make their own decision, to create cross-functional, we rely on cross-functional team to make decisions that will all together deliver value soon enough so that they can inspect and adapt and manage the change. Of course, we also put value as early as possible within the delivery lifecycle so that we can ask for feedback directly to the customer or end user that are around the products. And I see so many times, even within my last mission, value was not considered because they were already selling things. So why should we consider value? We make money. You see, this kind of things that we forget because we already believe that we already got it all. Time boxing, the single constraint we do have within Scrum, that is to say, agreeing on which going to be the life cycle within the team that you will follow so that you can create common idea about what you can deliver within a single cycle of time. And that's the iteration that you start, and you use the time box to make sure that you have at the end the result you wanted, or at least you put some constraint to facilitate an event to increase the chance you get results at the end, and stopping having a never-ending meeting. And then you have all the artifacts from project goal to increments, and among these artifacts that you all already know, the increments that I see so many times not very well followed is most of the things we deliver are not potentially shippable. The main reason is, oh, we need to validate it. We have a team. She's responsible to, that team is responsible to validate it. So agility stops when validation starts. And how to deal with that? Don't bypass it, but maybe start doing the validation instead of them. And when they start validating and they will see there is nothing to validate, they might question their job and start to do something else. And you will increase your level of agility. That's one way. But when you do something which is not potentially shippable, you lose the added value of delivering in an agile way. Because else, what kind of feedback you are going to get if you are not ready to go for production? Also, I don't describe the process because Scrum is more about the values and behavior than it is about the processes. But here, maybe I can zoom in a little bit for you. Yes. Here are again the Agile Manifesto, the 4 values, the one you should always keep in mind when doing something, like the promotion of interaction individual over process and tools. It means that even if there is more and more tools and more AI coming within our day-to-day work, if we would cease to interact between people, what would happen? We would simply cease to be people. So I invite you to considering how you interact with people, how you make people feeling good working with you, how you encourage face-to-face discussion rather than emailing, or developing even complex tools to replace other people's actions. So tools are good, but again, you need to consider first individual interaction over process and tools. And working software means delivering an increment that is potentially shippable, not only testable, which is going to be a first step, but not enough yet. Documentation, of course, consider it. It's less important than having something you can test. And when you start something with anyone, not only your customer, but your colleagues, see how you can directly start something, I mean, building something with it rather than discussing the details or what are we going to do with it. So consider anyone as a potential customer that you can with who you can co-create. And responding to change over following a plan because you understood that responding to the change that end users, stakeholders, or customers can ask for is very much more important as compared to any other plan you might have due to go on the moon. And eventually, something you need to feel okay to act with agility, and what we miss most of the time within the company, because there are so many things that can contribute to feel safe or unsafe, is psychological safety. Feel that doesn't help you to feel safe, could be like KPIs, personal KPIs, meaning how you are assessed at the end of the years or at the end of the month. This is something that kills personal psychological safety, because people will feel, okay, how am I going to compete compared to others sometimes rather than compared to themselves? And why do I have those ones and others have other ones? Why am I the only one having those objectives and why I don't know the objective of others? So it creates a lack of transparency that increases unsafetyness. But it could also be unclear communication, or the fact that when someone says something, it doesn't feel heard. So if you would like to dig into that topic, you go on Agile People. There is a psychological safety game that you can do with your team, with your organization, that can help you to assess what is today psychological safetyness and how to increase it with your colleagues. So you will find plenty of things to assess and really regularly reviewed with your team members will help you to considerably increase psychological safetyness, because the key here is to create the space to speak up and to do something with the thing we've shared. It means that psychological safetyness is nothing comfortable. It creates discomfort. We need courage to feel psychological safe to talk. And we need everyone in here. And last part of having an agile adventure, but I hope now you understood, is feeling responsible for the things that happen to us. Choosing what we want to create, choosing the thing we want to attract, starting from intention. I commit to feel responsible, or at least to act with responsibility, independently of the situation. Then the next step is awareness, meaning having someone to tell you, I don't believe right now you are behaving in a very responsible manner. That leads you to the last step, confrontation. What else could I do to act with responsibility, to not feel victim of what's happening or within the justification or whatever unresponsible, meaning reaction behavior you could have rather than responding to the situation. So at the end, if you train yourself to respond to a situation, if you train yourself to feel curious about the situation, if you get help by other people, if you commit to help other ones, and if you just do the job to increase your level of positive interaction with people, you are going to increase the agility of the organization you belong to. That's organic. So I hope you do the choice to build or to crash it all together to have an agile adventure. Thank you. Bien sûr.
Questions?
You mentioned during the presentation that an item that I thought was really interesting about the group curriculum. How do you help a group to be conscious about their curriculum as a group, strengths and weaknesses?
There are several ways, but the way I like to do with people I work with is first listing all the things they do know now. Then ask them, if you had access to all the training within the world, what would you like to learn? Then I put all those things either on the wall, either within an Excel, and I ask them also to note down what's the level of knowledge they consider having from 0 to 3, and what's the level of knowledge they'd like to get on the other things they'd like to understand. And then I do a mapping and I see who will be willing to share his knowledge with others and what are the potential things we need to negotiate within the company to create that knowledge. That will, of course, create more fervor.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, first of all, thank you very much for this super interesting presentation. I had a small question regarding one of the slides you presented. One of the parts of the Scrum manifesto, responding to change is, so to speak, more important than following the plan. As a software developer, I myself find myself often confronted to situations where we basically have a decision to make between what got decided during sprint planning. So we got a 2-week sprint, and we need to decide whether or not we're going to integrate the changes that the management requires to do suddenly, out of nowhere, basically, or stick to the plan that was decided before the sprint started and tell the management we're not going to be able to do what you're asking us to do before next sprint, basically, before the next sprint planning. What would be your advice to tackle that kind of situation?
First thing is cross-checking, depending on the way you do work, if you have a product goal and a sprint goal, because these are two things you do need to make your decision. If they are something that has nothing related to the product goal, you already have your answer. Okay, come back after you discuss with a product manager or product owner and integrate it within the overall goal, else we won't tackle it. Next thing is, if you have your sprint goal, that's non-negotiable. Either you stop the sprint and redo something that will help you to meet their goal. So you agree the sprint stop here and you restart a new one. Or you should, as a developer, you should not even be aware of those. You ask to the Scrum Master to help you to filter this kind of information you should not have heard about.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You can also ask questions later. I hope.
All right. More questions around the drink than at the bar. Thanks a lot, Carole, for preparing this talk, for sharing your insights with us tonight. I think we learned a lot. So I invite you all to grab a drink together and share more questions with Carole at the bar then. Thanks again.
Thank you.